Ambassador Hannah walked through the crowded main plaza of New Centauri, her crystalline skin catching the light of three suns. Tiny rainbows danced across the walls as she moved. Most people stepped back when they saw her coming, not out of rudeness, but fear. Hannah noticed a small child from the Aquarian system pointing at her. "Mommy, she's pretty. She looks like my snow globe." "Hush," the mother said, pulling her child away quickly. "That's the frozen ambassador." Hannah pretended not to hear, but her shoulders dropped slightly. 5 years as New Centauri's crystalline representative, and still the whispers followed her everywhere. At the diplomatic tower, the security scanner hummed as she passed through. The Beast guard nodded respectfully, but kept his mandibles firmly closed. Everyone knew her story. Everyone kept their distance. Ambassador Hannah called Toru, her assistant. "The council meeting starts in 10 minutes. "Thank you," she said, taking the reports he held out. Toru never handed anything directly to her. He always placed items on surfaces for her to pick up. It was safer that way. In her office, Hannah checked her reflection. Her face looked like polished diamond with subtle blue undertones, beautiful by most standards, but marked by sadness around her eyes. Her curse had taken so much from her. The first victim had been her childhood sweetheart back on Crystalia. They were just teenagers, experimenting with their first kiss. When her lips touched his, frost spread instantly across his body. Within seconds, he stood before her, a perfect ice statue, eyes wide with surprise. Scientists tried everything to reverse the process. Nothing worked. The crystalline government kept the incident quiet. But then it happened again during Hannah's university years. A fellow student kissed her during a celebration. Same result, another frozen statue. Tests revealed Hannah carried a rare genetic anomaly. When her lips made contact with another being, her body released a compound that caused instant molecular freezing. The victims remained conscious inside their frozen forms for a time, according to psychic readings, before their consciousness faded. The Crystalline High Council could have hidden Hannah away. Instead, they made a bold choice. They appointed her as ambassador, turning her condition into a strange form of diplomatic immunity. No one would dare attack or kidnap an emissary who could freeze them with a touch of her lips. "Ambassador, it's time," Toru called through the door. In the council chamber, Hannah took her designated seat. Other ambassadors nodded politely but kept their safe distance. 7 different species sat around the table, discussing trade routes and border security. Hannah spoke when necessary, her voice clear and professional. After the meeting, she walked alone to the observation deck. New Centauri spread below her, a city of impossible architecture where species from across the galaxy found common ground. Every building, every street represented cooperation and understanding. Yet Hannah remained untouched, isolated by her condition. A cleaner droid hummed nearby, polishing the railings. Even machines kept their distance. They were programmed to avoid her after an expensive service droid had been accidentally frozen the previous year. Hannah's personal communicator chimed. A message from Crystalia. Another potential treatment had failed in testing. 27 attempts, 27 failures. She put the device away and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, maybe an answer existed. A cure, a treatment, or perhaps just acceptance. As night fell over New Centauri, Hannah returned to her quarters. The walls were lined with paintings, her one joy. She painted with special brushes extended on poles, keeping her hands far from the canvas. Art gave her an outlet, a way to express the touch she could never experience. On her nightstand sat a small hologram, her family, waving from a world away. They called often but hadn't seen her in person for years. The risk was too great. Hannah touched her own lips gently. Such a small part of her body to cause so much pain. Such a simple thing. A kiss, denied to her forever. Tomorrow would be another day of careful distances, of diplomatic words spoken across the safety of tables, of a life observed but never truly shared. June stepped off the transport ship, squinting against the bright light of New Centauri's 3 suns. He carried just one small bag. Earth diplomats traveled light. The spaceport bustled with beings from across the galaxy, a riot of colors, shapes, and sizes that still amazed him, even after 5 years in the diplomatic corps. Mr. June. A small blue-skinned aide approached. I'm Toru, assistant to Ambassador Hana. Welcome to New Centauri. Just June is fine, he replied with a smile. Earth doesn't use formal titles much. Toru looked surprised but nodded. The ambassador is expecting you. Please follow me. As they walked, June studied the city. Massive crystal towers reached toward the sky, connected by transparent walkways. Ships of all designs zipped between buildings. First time in the crystalline sector? Toru asked. Yes, the architecture is beautiful. Ambassador Hana will be pleased to hear that. She takes pride in her people's designs. At the diplomatic tower, Jun noticed something odd. The security checkpoint had a special lane marked with blue symbols. What's that lane for? He asked. Toru hesitated. That's for Ambassador Hana. She requires special accommodations. June had read the briefing files about Ambassador Hana's condition, but they were light on details. Earth had limited contact with the Crystalline Confederation until now. The elevator took them to the 157th floor. Toru led June to a large conference room with a long table. At the far end sat a figure that made June stop in his tracks. Ambassador Hana's skin looked like polished diamond with subtle blue patterns flowing beneath the surface. She wore a simple white robe with silver trim. When she turned to face him, light scattered through her crystalline features, creating tiny rainbows across the walls. Ambassador Hana, may I present June, the new human diplomatic attaché, Toru announced from a careful distance. June noticed everyone in the room stood at least 3 meters from the ambassador. He remembered his briefing, something about a personal space requirement. June approached the table and stopped at a respectful distance. Ambassador, it's an honor to meet you. Earth looks forward to strengthening our relationship with the Crystalline Confederation. Hana studied him with eyes that shimmered like opals. Welcome to New Centauri, June. I must admit, we were surprised when Earth requested this posting. Most species prefer to work with our representatives on neutral stations. June smiled. I requested this assignment specifically. Your people's culture and technology are fascinating. Surprise flickered across Hana's face. You requested this post, knowing about my condition. I was told you have special security protocols. I'm happy to learn and follow them. The other diplomats in the room exchanged glances. Toru cleared his throat. Perhaps we should explain the full situation to our Earth colleague. Hana nodded slowly. Yes. June, there's something you should know about me. Anyone who touches my lips becomes frozen solid, transformed into ice. It's a genetic condition. That's why everyone keeps their distance. June processed this information. I see. Thank you for being direct. You're not concerned? Hana asked, studying his reaction. Should I be? Unless diplomatic protocol here includes kissing, which isn't common practice in Earth diplomacy, June replied with a small smile. For the first time, Hana's serious expression softened. No, it does not. Then we should work together just fine. I'm here to learn and help build bridges between our worlds. The meeting continued with discussions of upcoming negotiations. June noticed how others spoke to Hana, always from a distance, with careful formal words. Their fear was obvious. When the meeting ended, June stayed behind as others filed out quickly. Ambassador, he said, I hope I didn't speak out of turn earlier. Hana looked up from her notes. No, your directness is refreshing. Most new arrivals treat me like I might freeze them by looking at them. On Earth, we try not to define people by their medical conditions, Jun said. I'm here to work with you, not your genetic makeup. For a moment, Hana seemed at a loss for words. Then she smiled, a real smile that transformed her face. I think we'll work well together. June from Earth. 3 weeks passed, and tension filled the great meeting hall of New Centauri. Red warning lights flashed on communication screens as reports came in from the border regions. The Pyroxian Empire had moved warships closer to crystalline space. June rushed into the emergency session, datapads tucked under his arm. Ambassador Hannah stood at the center of the room, her crystalline skin reflecting the red warning lights. The Pyroxians have rejected our last 3 proposals, she said as June joined her at the command table. Unlike others who kept their distance, June stood comfortably at her side, close enough to speak quietly. Their ships are in position to strike 5 crystalline worlds, June noted, studying the star map. But they haven't attacked yet. They want something. Hannah nodded. Peace is held for 20 years. Why risk war now? For days, they worked without rest. June brought Hannah tea from Earth, a small kindness she appreciated. She shared stories of her homeworld that weren't in any official records. Their professional relationship had grown into real friendship. The Pyroxian ambassador has agreed to meet, Toru announced one morning. They will arrive in 3 hours. The news spread quickly. Peace might still be possible. Hannah prepared carefully for the meeting, reviewing previous treaties with June's help. The Pyroxians respect strength, she explained. We must not appear weak. But we should give them a path to compromise without losing face, June added. When the Pyroxian delegation entered the chamber, silence fell. Ambassador Krell led them. Tall and imposing with red-scaled skin and eyes that glowed like embers. Heat rippled from their bodies, making the air shimmer around them. Ambassador Hannah, Krell said, voice rumbling. The Crystalline Confederation sends its most dangerous diplomat to speak of peace. Interesting. Hannah remained calm. The Confederation wants to resolve this conflict without bloodshed. For hours, they discussed border patrols, trade routes, and mining rights. Progress came slowly but steadily. June watched Krell carefully, noting how the Pyroxian's eyes kept returning to Hannah with an unsettling interest. Finally, as they approached agreement on the main points, Krell raised a scaled hand. Before we sign any document, we must establish trust, he announced. In Pyroxian culture, agreements are sealed with the touching of lips, what some call a kiss. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Everyone knew what would happen if anyone kissed Ambassador Hannah. Ambassador Krell, Hannah said carefully, you know this is impossible. My condition. Yes, your famous curse, Krell interrupted. How convenient that you cannot perform our sacred trust ritual. June stepped forward. Perhaps another gesture could substitute. No substitutions, Krell insisted, heat flaring around his body. Our traditions are clear. If the Crystalline Confederation wants peace, their representative must honor our ways. The trap was obvious. If Hannah refused, the Pyroxians would leave, claiming the Crystallines had insulted their traditions. If she agreed, she would freeze their ambassador, creating an even worse diplomatic incident. You ask the impossible, Hannah said, her voice steadied despite the situation. You know what happens to those who touch my lips. Krell smiled, showing pointed teeth. Then perhaps the Crystallines don't truly want peace. Perhaps all your talk of compromise was lies. The Pyroxian delegation stood, preparing to leave. If they walked out now, war would follow within days. June watched Hannah's face. Behind her composed diplomatic mask, he saw anguish. For years, she had served as ambassador, working for peace despite her isolation. Now her very condition, the thing that had kept her apart from others, was being used to trigger a war. This is a deliberate provocation, June said quietly to Hannah. They never intended to reach agreement. Hannah nodded slightly. They found the perfect way to blame us for the conflict. The Pyroxian ambassador moved toward the door, his delegation following. Ambassador Krell, Hannah called out, her voice stronger than before. You know what you ask is impossible. But the Crystalline Confederation truly desires peace. Krell turned back, triumph in his glowing eyes. Prove it, Frozen One. Honor our traditions, or admit you never wanted peace at all. The room fell silent as everyone waited for Hannah's response. The fate of millions hung in the balance. June looked at Hannah, then at the Pyroxian delegation. In that moment, he made a decision that would change galactic history. Ambassador Krell, June said, stepping forward. As Earth's representative and ally to the Crystalline Confederation, I will demonstrate Ambassador Hannah's goodwill. Gasps filled the chamber. Toru dropped his datapad with a clatter. June. No. Hannah whispered urgently. You don't understand. You'll be frozen forever. June gave her a small smile. Sometimes diplomacy requires risk. Ambassador Krell's eyes narrowed. The human offers to take your place. Interesting, but unacceptable. Our tradition demands. Your tradition demands the touching of lips to show trust. June interrupted. It doesn't specify which representative must perform it. I speak for Earth and a crystalline confederation in this matter. The Pyroxian delegates whispered among themselves. Krell seemed momentarily thrown off balance. June, please, Hannah said, her voice shaking. 27 beings have been frozen by my curse. I can't let you become the 28th. Trust me, June said quietly. Before anyone could stop him, June stepped closer to Hannah. The room went completely silent. Even the environmental systems seemed to pause. Hannah stood frozen in shock as June leaned forward and gently pressed his lips to hers. Everyone held their breath, waiting for the frost to spread across June's body, for his skin to harden into ice, for his eyes to go still. But nothing happened. June stepped back, very much alive and unfrozen. He smiled at Hannah, whose eyes had gone wide with shock. Impossible, someone shouted. Ambassador Krell pushed forward. What trickery is this? Hannah reached up with trembling fingers to touch her own lips. How? She whispered. The chamber erupted into chaos. Security officers rushed in, medical teams were called, and scientific scanners were brought to examine both June and Hannah. Please remain calm, June announced to the room. There is no trickery here, simply an unexpected biological compatibility. The head medical officer, a tall being from the Meldari system, ran a scanner over June's body. Incredible, she said. The human shows no signs of molecular freezing. His cells are completely normal. For the next hour, scientists examined both June and Hannah. The Pyroxian delegation watched with intense interest, all thoughts of leaving forgotten. We have a theory, the chief scientist announced finally. Human biochemistry contains compounds we've never seen before. Something in their cellular structure neutralizes the freezing effect of Ambassador Hannah's condition. Hannah looked at June with wonder. All this time. Krell approached, heat rolling off his scaled body. The human has satisfied our tradition. He has shown trust and good faith. The Pyroxian ambassador bowed his head slightly. We will continue peace negotiations. As the formal talks resumed, June and Hannah stepped into a small side chamber. Why did you take such a risk? Hannah asked. You couldn't have known you would be immune. June smiled. I didn't, but I observed something over these past weeks. The reports about your condition mentioned 27 frozen victims from 7 different species, but no human had ever been tested. You risked your life on a scientific hunch. I risked my life for peace, June corrected gently. And perhaps, he hesitated, for you too. Color shifted beneath Hannah's crystalline features, the equivalent of a blush. That was either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Diplomats are a bit of both, I think. A soft chime interrupted them. The negotiations were ready to continue. As they walked back to the main chamber, whispers followed them. News was already spreading throughout New Centauri. A human had kissed the frozen ambassador and lived. The peace talks continued with new energy. The Pyroxians, impressed by June's willingness to risk himself, offered concessions they had previously refused. By the end of the day, a preliminary agreement was signed. As officials filed out of the chamber, June noticed how differently they looked at Hannah, not with fear, but with curiosity and respect. Something fundamental had changed. What happens now? Hannah asked quietly. Now, June said, we learn why humans are different, and what it might mean for you and your people. News traveled faster than light across the galaxy. Within days, every major world had heard. Humans were immune to the crystalline curse. Ships from Earth arrived at New Centauri in growing numbers, bringing scientists, diplomats, and curious visitors. 6 months after the historic kiss, Hannah walked through the newly constructed Xenobiology Institute. The sleek building sat at the heart of New Centauri, its design blending crystalline and Earth architecture. Through large windows, she could see researchers from dozens of worlds working together. The latest results just came in, Jun said, joining her with a datapad. Unlike before, people no longer stepped away when Hannah approached. The halls were filled with crystallines who, like Hannah, had lived with the curse for generations. What did they find? Hannah asked. It's a protein in human blood, something that evolved on Earth thousands of years ago as protection against extreme cold. June showed her the molecular diagrams. When combined with crystalline biology, it creates a neutralizing effect. Hannah touched the screen gently. Such a simple thing to end so much suffering. The discovery had changed everything for her people. The 27 beings who had been frozen by the curse, including Hannah's childhood sweetheart, were being carefully thawed and revived using treatments developed from human biochemistry. The first public treatment center opens next week on Crystallia, Jones said. 200 crystallines with the same condition as you will receive the therapy. Hannah's eyes shimmered with emotion. My sister is among them. She's lived in isolation since she was 16. They walked through the garden at the center of the institute. Plants from Earth and Crystallia grew side by side, creating beautiful patterns. Researchers had discovered that some Earth plants also contained the special protein and were developing medicines from them. The Pyroxian ambassador sent a message. Hannah said, they want to establish a permanent embassy here. June smiled. From the edge of war to diplomatic relations in half a year. Not bad work, Ambassador. We make a good team, Hannah replied. Their relationship had evolved in ways neither had expected. At first, June had been simply the human who could safely touch her. Then he became her closest confidant. Now he was something more. Partner, companion, love. The Council wants to make you an official representative of the Crystalline Confederation, Hannah said, the first human to hold such a position. June looked surprised. I'm honored, but I serve Earth. They've already spoken with your government. It would be a dual role, representing both worlds. In the center of the garden, a small crowd had gathered. Crystalline children played with human children from the new Earth settlement. None of the crystalline parents pulled their children away in fear. The old habits of isolation were fading. Did you ever imagine this? Hannah asked, watching the children. When you first came to New Centauri? June shook his head. I hoped to improve relations. I never expected to change history. Or to kiss an ambassador, Hannah said with a small smile. June laughed. Definitely not in the diplomatic handbook. A young crystalline girl approached them shyly. Ambassador Hannah, my mother was frozen for 12 years. The doctors used human medicine to bring her back last month. She held out a small crystal flower. Thank you. Hannah knelt down and took the flower. Thank you, little one. But remember, it wasn't just me. It was all of us working together. As the child ran back to her friends, Joan touched Hannah's hand. The Intergalactic Science Committee wants to nominate us for the Unity Medal. Both of us. Why me? You're the one with the miraculous biology. Because you didn't give up. You could have hidden away, lived in isolation. Instead, you became an ambassador, faced the fear of others every day. That evening, they stood on the balcony of the Institute, watching New Centauri's 3 suns set in sequence. The city below them had changed. New Earth-style buildings stood alongside crystalline towers. Human music played from some dwellings, mixing with crystalline harmonics. "What happens next?" June asked. Hannah looked at the stars appearing above them. "We keep exploring. Together." She no longer feared her touch would bring harm. Her curse had become a bridge between worlds. As the final sun dipped below the horizon, Hannah leaned forward and kissed June, not as a test or experiment, but as a promise of all that was to come.